Welcome to SABA North America's first virtual gala. I'm Rajiv Satyal, your MC for the evening. It is a pleasure to be with you. And as you probably guessed, I'm originally from Ohio. You probably did not guess that at all. I now live in California. And during these tough times, people ask me, how are you doing? I say, look, I'm with the woman I love, in our home, in great weather, and it sucks. You know, COVID-19 may be rampant, but at least the positive is FOMO has been eradicated. I know we can't be together in person, but we are together tonight in spirit. And with that, we have an amazing show coming up. We're going to begin with the SABA Foundation benefit, immediately followed by the virtual gala. With that, I'd like to welcome the SABA Foundation leadership.
Good evening. The SABA Foundation awards grants to organizations that are fighting some of the causes most plaguing our South Asian community. These include domestic violence, hate crimes, racial profiling, and more. In 2020, everything the foundation does, everything we stand for, has become critically important. The first 10 donors who give $250 or more will receive a signed copy of our keynote speaker, Valarie Kaur's new book, See No Stranger. Text GIVE to 833-201-4726. And now to illustrate the work of your donations is Executive Director of NARCA, Bindu Umen Fernandez.
Good evening, everyone. NARCA was created in 1992 to serve South Asian survivors of domestic violence. Domestic violence is hard, and it's harder still when you add in complexities like immigration, legal support, and language access. But let's talk about the pandemic. While we're all grateful to be with our loved ones and to spend quality time with them, the reality is that even the most loving of families have experienced conflict during these times. Now imagine being forced to be with your abuser, fearful for your life, for your children's lives. Just at NARCA, we have seen a 3-time increase in the number of calls to our helpline. Thanks to the SABA Foundation grant, we're able to continue to scale and respond to this critical need. When you support the SABA Foundation, you're supporting nonprofits just like NARCA, who serve the underserved and the most vulnerable in our communities. So please, give generously and help make our communities safer and stronger together. Thank you.
Thank you, Bindu, for showing us the ways that foundation greatly impacts your work. The SABA Foundation has traditionally given 4 grants each year, but this year is different because of the pandemic. We've decided to double down on our efforts and give 8 grants. We are extremely grateful to our SABA Foundation sponsors for supporting us in making small yet meaningful grants to the following organizations: NARCA in San Francisco, California, Adhikar in New York, Indo-Canadian Women's Association based in Edmonton, Canada, My Family Services in Michigan, Diya in Texas, Saheli in Massachusetts, Jahaji Sisters in New York, and the Accenture Skills to Succeed grant to Raksha based in Atlanta, Georgia. While Foundation has had a banner year in terms of the number and amount of grants we have been able to give, the need is far greater than before. So please join us and text GIVE to 833-201-4726 and pledge your donation to the SABA Foundation. No amount is too small, and every bit will help to make an impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Sucharita. It is now my pleasure to introduce the SABA Foundation keynote speaker, Valarie Kaur. Valarie Kaur is a civil rights activist, lawyer, filmmaker, innovator, and founder of the Revolutionary Love Project. Valarie, is there anything you don't do? We're sitting around during Corona and you're just making us look bad. I'm just kidding. Keep doing your thing. We need more people like you. Welcome, Valarie.
Thank you, everybody, for having me tonight. Thank you to the South Asian Bar Association of America for having us, for gathering us in this unprecedented time in our nation and in our lives. I see you all I see how millions of us have been flooding the street in our grief and in our rage, in visible ways and invisible ways, standing up for Black lives, centering racial justice. I see how you're leaning into solidarity even as you are trying to protect your own families and communities in the wake of increased domestic violence, hate violence, immigration policies, racial profiling, injustices and struggles during this global pandemic. I see how much you are caring. And I just want to say I witness you and I honor you and I thank you for being here tonight. I think that there is such a thing as intergenerational trauma. Scientists have shown us now that we carry in our bodies and in our breath the trauma of our ancestors. I carry in my body the trauma of 1984, the Sikh pogroms in Delhi. I carry in my body the trauma of the partition of India. What traumas do you carry in your body? I believe if there is such a thing as intergenerational trauma, then there must be such a thing as intergenerational resilience. Think about what your ancestors had to survive: colonization and genocide and unjust policies, sexual violence. Think of all that they had to survive for you to be here now. I know that this is an unprecedented moment. I know that the challenges feel new and frightening and terrifying beyond measure, but I also believe that we have the bravery that it takes to survive this and to discern our role in this great labor for justice, to transition America into a truly anti-racist society and to protect our communities along the way. I believe this. I invite you to text GIVE, give, to this number, 833-201-4726. The first 10 people who support the foundation with a gift of $250 or more will receive a free copy of my book, a new book that's just come out. It's called See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love. It contains my grandfather's story and the stories of so many of our communities struggling for justice since 9/11 and long before. It's about how to rise to that struggle with love and with bravery and with wisdom, and I can't wait to put it into your hands. If you donate tonight, if you make that high donation of $250 or more, then you might be one of the ones I can send this book to. I will inscribe this book and send it to you. May you hold it in your hands. May it be a source of companionship and strength and wisdom. However you show up, whatever you decide to do after tonight, I ask you to hold on to that image of your ancestors at your back. For we will be someone else's ancestors one day. And if we get this right, they will inherit not our fear, but our bravery. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Valerie. That was so impressive. I love the bits about family. It reminds me of an old joke. The reason that grandparents and grandchildren get along so well, they have a common enemy. Right now, it's really important that we all give, okay? We all know that COVID is the main pandemic, but there are all of these shadow pandemics that need to be addressed. Life goes on, and here's the deal. Could you please pull out your phones and text GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 833-201-4726. Let's see how much we can raise right now. Even I am going to contribute, and I'm a starving comedian. Really starving right now during Corona. I'm not even wearing shoes, okay? I'll just make that confession to you. I feel like we're connected at this point. You're lawyers. These are your causes, so please contribute to your own causes. Let's raise some money. After all, you're considered an essential business. Law, right? Comedy is considered a non-essential business by the government right now. Let me tell you what wonders that does for a comedian's self-esteem, by the way. So if I can give, I think you can too. After all, it's bad enough for my parents that I did not become a lawyer, did not become a doctor, although at least I'm wearing a mask every day. So, Mom, there is that. Speaking of things that are on my face and maybe I don't want them there, what is going on with my eyebrows? This is insane. Okay, it looks like I have two pet caterpillars that are about to meet each other, all right? Without European Wax Center, which really should be Asian Wax Center, given how much we keep it in business, we are shot, okay? This is like Moses in the Bible, like trying to hold apart the Red Sea so his people can cross. I'm fighting every day to make this happen. Now, my left and right eyebrow are going to meet each other. It's like a 1970s song, reunited, and it feels so good. All right. This is the official end of the SABA Foundation program. We are now moving to the SABA Gala portion of the evening. Just like all SABA galas, it is open bar. Except this time, the bar is in your kitchen. So pour yourselves a drink and let's begin by toasting SABA North America's outgoing president, Anish Mehta. Anish, not a tough time at all, was it? I mean, this almost sounds like a joke. An impeachment, a pandemic, a protest movement, and an election all walk into the same year. Luckily, you had Microsoft Teams to help you navigate it. Welcome, Anish.
Thank you, Rajiv. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. As I stand here before you as SABA's outgoing president, I could not be more proud of our community's unwavering support for civil rights and equality. During our 2019 conference in Atlanta, we celebrated the history of the civil rights movement. Throughout the year, our programming, messaging, and outreach reflected that commitment. And now we are in the midst of a national and global discussion of how we handle race in America. South Asians have an important role in that discussion. SABA has an important role in that discussion. And if I have one ask of everyone, it is to find your voice, be involved, look for opportunities to support others beyond just posting on social media. While my term is coming at an end, I can promise you that SABA North America will be there to help you find opportunities. And I cannot think of two members who have more epitomized this commitment to service and justice than our next speakers. It is my great honor to introduce Vanita Gupta, President and CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and the former head of the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, and Preet Bharara, host of the hit podcast Stay Tuned, and the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York.
Hi, Vanita.
Hey, Preet.
How are
Nice
you?
to see you.
So can I start by saying I miss you? I miss working with you.
Too. I miss you too, but it's nice to see you.
So before we begin the program, I just want to take a sip of my water.
Well done. Are you going to
Sometimes it
bound
takes
down?
two hands. Sometimes it takes two hands.
Are you going to bound down a ramp now too, or
No,
actually
no.
walk slowly, deliberately?
In the age of COVID, I don't do ramps, but also product placement.
There you go.
You see, yes, I'm very shameless.
Well
so
done.
lots of things going. You're doing okay?
You know, it's a crazy, intense time, as you know, but my family is healthy. Yours?
Everyone's good. 106 days straight in the house. Not that anybody's counting.
Right.
Too bad we couldn't all be together, but eventually, one day.
Yeah.
So should we talk about some stuff that's been going
Yeah.
on, both in your wheelhouse and in my wheelhouse? So a little over a month ago, George Floyd was killed, murdered. There have been murder charges brought after he was killed by a police officer in Minneapolis. And so I'll ask a question that I know you've gotten a number of times and that I've been thinking about and speaking about, and that is, given all the protests, not just in places where you might expect them, not just locally in Minneapolis, but not only all over the country, but all over the world, in Europe as well, is this time going to be different? Is there really going to be some kind of reform, whatever shape it takes? Will there be momentum towards doing something different when it comes to policing? Given your expertise, what do you think?
Yeah, that's the big question right now. I think George Floyd's murder was so just profoundly disturbing, and the 8 minutes and 48 seconds that everyone watched play on a spool on cable TV, I think it was brought home into everyone's living room. I was at a couple of the protests in the last few weeks, and it felt distinctly different than the protests after Ferguson. Obviously, those were also nationwide, but these are large. They're all over the country. They're multiracial. They're multi-generational. They were sustained. They're still going on. And so the reason why I feel like there's a real possibility in this moment of crisis for some transformative change is just to see the outpouring and recognition by communities around the country that there's systemic racism in policing, that we have to change it. More and more Americans are actually recognizing this. And it's happening against the backdrop of a global pandemic where Black Americans and Americans of color are suffering at way disproportionate rates both from the disease itself, the virus itself, but also on all of the economic implications and health outcomes and the like. And so that's also revealing, other inequalities and systemic problems that we have in this country. And where, I don't know if you know, we are a few months away from a pretty historic election in which we
Wait,
have,
that's this year?
That's this year. And actually, about 4 months, time to get your head out of the sand, Preet.
No, I had no idea. I never talked about it at all.
Yes. And so I think what's happening right now is this culmination of all of these things. And we've had a president whose reaction has been just, entirely militaristic. He's unable to ever unify the country. He's actually using racism as an electoral tactic. And so I just feel like all of this coming together right now means that folks are demanding change, and we'll see. I'm at the leadership conference on civil and human rights. We are working on a major transformative federal bill that has provisions in it that were unthinkable even a few weeks ago, to be honest. And we're going to do other. Yeah.
So I want to ask you about legislation in a moment. First, with the case of George Floyd, I was surprised, given how prior cases have gone, how quickly charges were brought. What do you make of the speed with which charges were brought, and then the speed with which it was handed over to the Attorney General in Minnesota, and then the upgrading of the charges? What does that tell you about where we are as a country on this issue?
I mean, that's when people say nothing has changed. I have to point to this really swift condemnation that happened both in Minneapolis and in the charging, as well as I think law enforcement around the country has pretty swiftly condemned what happened there. And that's a change. That's a cultural evolution that you and I didn't see when we were at the Justice Department even 4 or 5 years ago. And that's really as a result of kind of the outrage. Now, of course, I think we have to recognize that without cell phone video having captured this, probably none of us would be talking about this right now. And that's a reality that we have to contend with and confront. But that's a big change. It's also happening against a backdrop of a Justice Department that has largely been, AWOL on these issues, not opening a pattern or practice investigation in Minneapolis. It's why the Minnesota Department of Human Rights opened its own investigation to confront systemic issues. The Justice Department's walked away from this work. And so now I get to ask you a question. And there's a lot more.
I wasn't done. I had more questions.
We'll come back because I think there's a lot to say about the Justice Department and what's at stake, in the next few months.
Yes, there is.
But there's something else that happened recently with the Justice Department. So against the backdrop of a Justice Department that, has abdicated its work and responsibility in helping to promote constitutional policing, build police community trust, there's also been a pretty thorough undermining of the rule of law and a couple weeks ago, your successor, Jeff Berman, something happened to him. Do you want to tell folks what happened and why you care?
Yeah. So it was 8 days ago. And the irony is for me, speaking to SABA, which I have a long history of doing, the first time I spoke at SABA was 13 years ago, 2007, in San Francisco, where they were nice enough to give me an award. And the reason I was asked to speak was at the time I was chief counsel to Senator Schumer on the Judiciary Committee, and I was leading the investigation with respect to the firing of U.S. attorneys. So that's how I began my relationship with SABA and speaking like you and I are now on Zoom. Then 3 years later, I spoke at SABA as the actual United States attorney in the Southern District. Then some years later, after I was fired, I spoke as the fired United States attorney from SDNY. And here I am again, 8 days after another controversial firing of a U.S. attorney. So I feel like, I don't know what the karma is there, to coin a phrase, but that's the backdrop against which I've spoken to all of you so many times over the past number of years. So Jeff Berman was the handpicked U.S. attorney successor, never Senate confirmed, appointed by the court, and was doing what, generally speaking, U.S. attorneys in the Southern District do, that place also known informally in some circles as the Sovereign District of New York, which is a nod to its independence. And I was a very independent U.S. attorney. The office is that way. We're not rogue. We accept, and you and I work together very, very, very well. Even though you were at the mothership in DC, but we pride our independence. And I think at this time when people are concerned about equal application of the law, independence is a good thing. And even though Berman is a Republican, registered Republican, and donated to Trump, he was upholding the tradition of that place. And we've seen reports over time. The president was not happy about how the Michael Cohen investigation unfolded, the fact that Jeff Berman recused himself from that in the same way he was upset about how Jeff Sessions recused himself from the Russia investigation. And I think that boiled up after, Rudy Giuliani was notably under investigation by that office as well. And after 9 p.m. on a Friday, Jeffrey Berman was fired. And what was also—
Everything always happens after 9 p.m. on Fridays.
You think it's okay to like have a glass of wine and relax,
Yeah.
and then
But it never is.
And part of the problem is you have this weird story where the Attorney General of the United States, who's the chief federal law enforcement officer, is making something up about Jeff Berman, saying he's stepping down, when Jeff Berman an hour or two later says, "I'm not resigning. I'm not stepping down. I have no intent to step down." I mean, there have been bad attorneys general before, and I worked to investigate one of them, as I mentioned, 13 years ago. But I've never seen a case where someone not only is so sort of devoted to protecting the particular interests of the president, but also lying about it. And you have case after case after case. Like, the counterpoint to what you're saying is at the same time that the Justice Department is not opening up pattern and practice investigations, they are seeming to intervene, most notably in cases where it involves someone who's close to the president, not just in the case potentially of Giuliani's investigation, but also Roger Stone and also Michael Flynn. And it's very dispiriting.
It is more than dispiriting. I think it's actually completely egregious. And the Attorney General has been really impugning the reputation of the Justice Department and the role, the independence, as you said. He's been, to me, acting as the president's defense lawyer and not as the top law enforcement official for the United States of America. When we saw him roaming the streets in the aftermath of the protests it was actually during the protests in Washington, D.C. I mean, what was that and he had deployed this mash of federal agents from across law enforcement that weren't wearing identification or badges. They weren't necessarily trained to manage mass protests. And then that crazy PR stunt outside of the church with the president. I mean, this is the kind of stuff, especially when people are in the streets trying to proclaim that Black Lives Matter and trying to really kind of humanize the more systemic violence and state violence, just to have that representation of the government and of the U.S. government in that way, it causes me a lot of pain, to be honest. I know it seems like an intellectual thing for some, but it's actually a really painful thing, because I was really proud. I was an imperfect Justice Department, but I was really proud to be able to push on some of these important, really, consequential issues where it mattered, when the United States government stood up for civil rights and for vulnerable communities, just as when you and I were working together and your leadership on Rikers Island to try to really make change there. And so, this is a time where there's a lot happening, and how people are going to end up showing up in November and exercising their kind of right in promoting and supporting a set of values that I think are so germane to the United States. I think it's a really important set of months right now.
Yeah, look, and there have been times before when the Department of Justice has come under fire, and there's been a concern about independence of not just particular U.S. attorneys' offices, but the department as a whole. I've never seen it worse. It's kind of, maybe you'll share this view. I was not a particular fan of Jeff Sessions and how he led the department, and it almost seems quaint.
You can guess where I fall on that one.
I know,
yeah.
But he did some things that were okay to do, like recusing himself. I mean, the one thing we know for sure that he did correctly was recuse himself from the Russia investigation, which is the one thing that Donald Trump couldn't abide. And then you had Matthew Whitaker. I think part of the reason that some folks, myself included, I was wrong. I thought that Bill Barr would be better than Matt Whitaker, because Matt Whitaker was just not ready for prime time. I don't think just had the chops to do that job. Bill Barr is much more dangerous in my view, because he is smart, he is cunning, and he's sort of quietly going about, I think, undermining the rule of law, not just in the Southern District, also in Washington, D.C. And part of the reason I speculate that he thought he could so easily sort of ride roughshod over the firing or manipulate a resignation by Jeffrey Berman is because he sort of did that in D.C. by installing someone who was, someone who used to report to him, Tim Shea,
Yeah.
and then overriding prosecutorial decision-making in the Stone case. Look, we had this hearing last week. You know, a few days after Jeff Berman gets fired, you have a sitting assistant U.S. attorney from Maryland, Aaron Zielinski, basically testifying that it's my understanding that the Roger Stone case was interfered with because he is a close associate of the president. I'm not aware, even during the U.S. attorney firings under Alberto Gonzales back in 2007, I don't remember that kind of thing being alleged with such particularity and such.
Yeah.
And so it's in all these. Look, and then the other area that is in neither of our wheelhouses, I guess, antitrust. There's a suggestion that there's politicizing of antitrust investigations. So it seems like there's no place in the department at this moment that has not felt the touch of politics.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say on this, and I'm really, really worried about what role the Justice Department is going to play in protecting or undermining fair elections, right? So usually you've got a civil rights division with a voting rights section that is working around the country to protect voting rights. And now we have a situation where the Attorney General is just last week gave an interview lying about what is otherwise a completely legitimate voting method, voting by mail, with no evidence of any kind of mass voter fraud, but saying that, oh, it's going to be fraudulent, and setting the seeds in the way the president is to delegitimize what could be an otherwise completely legitimate election that the president may lose. And so really concerned about the kind of weaponization of the Justice Department. And I think, one thing that I talk about, Preet, and I know you and I have talked about this a little bit, is we should say it to SABA, because I'm really also concerned about the politicization of our courts, which have played historically one of the most important roles in protecting civil rights and enforcing the law and the rule of law. And the kind of packing of the courts right now with nominees who are really to the extreme and often, pretty brazen about their disapproval through writings, blog posts, and the like of really key fundamental civil rights precepts. And that's the kind of stuff that's going to impact my kids. It's going to affect the litigation that lawyers are doing, that the Justice Department is doing and may do in the future, we hope. So it's something that I always feel the need to talk about, because I think for a long time, we've taken the courts for granted. You worked on these issues with Senator Schumer, and I just believe that it is really important for us to all understand the role that the courts play in all of our lives. Leaving aside that we are lawyers who work in the courts, but also just as people in this country and communities where the courts are deciding so many issues, including things like the Michael Flynn prosecution and what happens and what's permitted there. So just wanting to connect some of those dots.
Yeah, look, I think it's a difficult time. The election is incredibly important. There are all these issues that you and I care about. To me, the most important way to get any of those things done is to make sure that the right person gets elected in the fall. And I worry also. On the podcast, we're going to have some election law experts. Hopefully you'll come on at some point in the near future to talk about these voting rights issues.
Yeah.
Because you can see the record being laid now, the foundation being laid now about the unfairness of the election. I had Ian Bremmer on my podcast at the beginning of the year. He said the greatest political risk we have is a close election. Because after a close election,
that's right,
there are going to be tens of millions of people who will be persuaded not to believe in the correctness of that result. And who knows what that's going to lead to in the country. By the way, possibly in the midst of a second wave of the pandemic. So we only have a few seconds left. Let's end on an upbeat note. I will be dancing in my basement to DJ Reka, which is not the same as being with all of you. No, I won't really be. I'll be dancing in my mind. Say something positive, Vanita, and then we'll say goodbye.
I will just say that as hard as these times are, this is a time of great inspiration, because we are seeing folks from every walk of life kind of roll up their sleeves and work to make a more perfect America. And that is what animates me every day as a civil rights lawyer. And I think it is really, this country's been through a lot. It's time to show solidarity. It's time to have hope and action. And to meet the future with open arms and inspiration. So thank you all for joining me, and Preet and I can talk for hours. We really appreciate being able to be here in front of you, with you, and hopefully see you in person.
Thanks, folks. Hopefully next year in person.
Thank you, Preet and Vanita, for that riveting discussion about topics that are weighing so heavily on all of us right now. Your intelligent and thoughtful comments inspire us and clarify just how much work there is for us all to do together. And now a few words from our respected South Asian judges.
Hello, SABA. I bring greetings from Toronto, the home of your largest chapter. Toronto has over 800 members. I find that number astounding because when I graduated from law school in 1972, there were 3, maybe 4 lawyers in all of Ontario. The progress has been incredible. In 2004, I could say I was the only non-white judge on Ontario's highest court. Now, I can't even say I'm the only South Asian. Last year, Justice Mahmood Jamal joined me on the court. I'm happy to see all the young, successful SABA members coming up, and I wish you a good conference and commend the good work SABA is doing.
During these times of social and physical isolation, the importance of community has become clear to all. SABA is to be congratulated for continuing to maintain that community through its webinars and through this virtual conference. These are strange and difficult times. As a Canadian neighbor to the north, watching the nightly news, the images leave the impression of the United States tearing itself apart. All lawyers have a responsibility to work for, promote, and defend equality, fairness, and the rule of law, which is the cornerstone of democracy. These responsibilities may weigh heavier on members of SABA. Many of us here are here because of our parents. We owe it to those who chose to immigrate into the countries they adopted, which today are our homes, to ensure they continue to be beacons of fairness, equality, and integrity. Congratulations.
I wish to congratulate SABA for another outstanding year. I applaud your success in strengthening the South Asian legal community and in providing access to justice and promoting civil rights. And I wish you and your members continued success and good health in the year ahead.
Congratulations, SABA, for another year of exemplary advocacy. While we are physically apart practicing social distancing, we need to be closer together with collective determination to stand up and speak up with one voice to promote diversity and inclusion, to protect civil rights, and ensure meaningful access to justice for our South Asian community.
I wish to add my congratulations to SABA North America on the occasion of its virtual conference. While we may be apart, we are witnessing together an unprecedented focus on the role, the place, and the treatment of racialized, Indigenous, and other minorities in Canada and around the world. While that focus can sometimes be painful, I also think it's an opportunity for real change. I know from being involved in SABA over many years that the role of SABA and many of you in the organization is absolutely vital, and it could not be more important than at a time like this. I wish you success, thank you, and keep well.
Hi, I'm so excited to be joining you at your virtual gala, and congratulations to SABA North America on another successful year. I so look forward to seeing everybody in person at SABA's gala next year. Thank you.
On behalf of SABA, we sincerely thank our respected judges for their inspirational messages. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to welcome Neal Katyal. Neal needs no introduction. In addition to being a strong veteran of the SABA community, Neal previously served as the Acting Solicitor General of the United States. Now he is a partner at Hogan Lovells and a professor of law at Georgetown University. Neal, we are honored to have you say a few words.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak at the SABA virtual gala, and I'm very sorry that we're not doing this in person. I'm sorry for many reasons, both because I love hanging out with the folks in SABA, but also because right now I feel like this is the most important time for an organization like ours. The country is racked with coronavirus and with race relations issues, and I feel like an organization like SABA plays a critical role in furthering the goal of American democracy at this time. I do not mean to say at all that the discrimination that we face as South Asians is comparable to that faced by African Americans. It's not. It's obviously not. We don't have the same history of slavery and the things that have horrifically plagued this country since its inception. But nonetheless, I think most of us have experienced things in our lives, whether it's being taunted at school or breaking into a new profession or being the only face in a room, in a boardroom that's not white. All these kinds of things which allow us to build a bridge and have some experience of commonality with those who are suffering. And if I can leave you with any message, it's really this. I mean, we have the power as lawyers to fight for what we believe and to heal this country and to make it a better place. And that tool sometimes involves litigation. And I know many of you at SABA are involved in various forms of this. And I know it's hard, and it's getting harder with some of the new appointees to the federal courts. But the fight is really important. And sometimes you're going to lose. I remember losing the Muslim ban case and being devastated and feeling like my powers of persuasion had waned and that I couldn't win anything anymore. And it took a while, but I got back up and, I joined the lawsuit on the census case and we won that. And then I joined the DACA case and we just recently won that. And I joined the Title VII LGBT rights case and we won that. And so even when things look bleak, and when it looked like stuff was all stacked against us, there were moments of hope, and those are things on which we can build. And even if you don't win all the cases, you educate and you inspire, and you bend that arc of justice a little bit further in the direction, as Dr. King said, it was meant to be bent. So you all have the power of courts, you have the power of your law degrees, and you have the power and prestige of our profession. And I'd urge you to all use it for the common good and for helping heal this country. I wish all you the best. I hope you all are safe. And I can't wait to see you all in person next year.
Thank you, Neal. And thank you for your longstanding support of our organization. And as always, for your invaluable thoughts and insights. Our next speaker is a longtime member of SABA North America who has had an illustrious career in public service. A former federal and county prosecutor in New Jersey, in his current role, he continues to lead the fight against the opioid crisis, advocate for sensible gun control, and champion improved relations between the police and the communities they serve. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce the 61st Attorney General of the state of New Jersey, Gurbir Grewal.
Hello, everyone. I'm New Jersey Attorney General Gurbir Grewal, and I'm so sorry we couldn't be together to celebrate in person. But I'm so grateful to SABA North America for continuing the tradition and transitioning the gala into a virtual space. This evening is a tremendous opportunity to celebrate the great work this organization does to support South Asians, in particular South Asian lawyers. Work that offers a safe place and important mentorship. Work that promotes diversity and inclusion. Work that champions civil rights. And work that offers access to justice. It's all invaluable. It's instrumental. And it's something that I've benefited from. I wouldn't be in the position I am today if it wasn't for organizations like SABA championing the cause of South Asians, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector. I have the ability to stand up for New Jersey on a daily basis because this organization helped me get to where I am. So I encourage you to continue the hard work. It's difficult days right now, but we'll be celebrating together, I think, fairly soon. Again, have a wonderful evening, and thank you for all that you do for the South Asian community and for South Asian lawyers and what you've done for me personally. Be well and stay safe.
Thank you, Attorney General Grewal, for that heartfelt speech. And now, a very special message for all of those who made tonight possible.
To our sponsors, we would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere appreciation for your generous support of SABA and the work it is doing during this unprecedented year.
The pandemic threw SABA and the world for a loop, but with your steadfast partnership, we will emerge stronger than before.
We're stronger together, and we're grateful for your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you again to all of our sponsors for sticking with us through these tough times. And now I am thrilled to introduce a fellow Punjabi, the first Sikh mayor of a major city in America, Mayor Ravi Bhalla.
Good evening. As the first South Asian mayor of Hoboken, I know that I am proud to say that Hoboken was the first city in the country to take proactive measures to lock down restaurants and bars. In addition, we were the first to do a shelter-in-place policy on the East Coast and get out testing for COVID-19 and antibody testing. And I can confidently say this wouldn't be possible without my training as an attorney. So it gives me great pleasure to congratulate you, SABA, for everything that you do and everything that you stand for. Congratulations.
On behalf of SABA, I would like to thank Mayor Bhalla for making time for us today, and even more for your steadfast leadership through the ongoing COVID crisis. Ever since this pandemic first began, the bravest of us rose to the challenge. While most of us were only asked to quarantine and stay at home, the courageous human beings amongst us went to work every day, putting not only themselves, but their loved ones at great risk. We at SABA are extremely proud of and humbled by their valor. We would like to take a moment to recognize the frontline workers and the first responders, the doctors, nurses, hospital staff, the public officials and their aides who acted swiftly and decisively, making difficult choices and saving lives. It's now my privilege to introduce the awards chair, Sadia Masood. A stalwart of SABA for many years, Sadia, along with the awards committee, not only spent many hours, but took great consideration in selecting the award recipients from a group of extremely worthy nominees. Sadia?
North America. As awards chair, it is my distinct honor to announce this year's recipients for the Rising Star Awards and the Outstanding Program Award. Our Rising Stars are an incredible group of attorneys from across the United States and Canada. I would like to congratulate each in alphabetical order, starting with Rajiv Satyal, an IP attorney from Haynes & Boone from SABA Austin, Simit Chugani, Deputy General Counsel at Apple Bank, also referred to by some as Mr. SABA, from SABA, New York. Lalita Ginturi, Deputy General Counsel at RSA Security, a former SABA Foundation president from SABA Boston. Andy Hare, a leading family law practitioner from SABA Toronto. Nandu Macharaju, an antitrust legal advisor at the FTC from SABA DC. And Nia Raul, an attorney at Morgan Lewis, a pro bono champion from SABA DC. Finally, congratulations to SABA Austin for winning the Outstanding Program of the Year award for their Judicial Candidates Forum program. Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, Sadia, and the awards committee for recognizing our incredible awardees. Our next speaker is a trusted leader in the banking industry, a valued member of the SABA community, someone who, despite his incredibly busy schedule, is always willing to make time to provide nuggets of wisdom to help our future SABA leaders. We are thrilled to welcome Rohan Veerasinghe, General Counsel and Corporate Secretary for Citigroup.
I've been involved with SABA for many years now, including participating in a fireside chat with the New York chapter last summer. And it's been a very exciting opportunity to see the organization's growth over the years. SABA and other affinity bar groups are a critical piece of the legal community. We work to protect our community's civil rights and enhance access to justice, while at the same time supporting the development of the next generation of leaders in the legal profession. Beyond this, and together with other affinity bar organizations, you form a critical network of allies across our communities, which in recent events is more important than ever. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to work with SABA, and congratulations to SABA and all of you on another successful year. We're living in a time of profound and difficult change, and I look forward to continuing to see your vital work in action. Thank you very much.
Thank you to SABA North America for inviting me to participate in this virtual gala. As a SABA board member in Washington, D.C. almost 20 years ago, I've watched with pride ever since as the South Asian bar has grown in stature and success. Congratulations to SABA North America on another successful year, and here's to many more.
I want to thank and congratulate SABA on all your hard work advocating for the South Asian legal community, the South Asian community at large, and for so many others as well. As our country faces the challenges of a pandemic, its economic impact, and our ongoing problems with the legacy of racial injustice, SABA's work is more important than ever. Thank you for all of your efforts, and I look forward to seeing you in the future in person. Until then, please be safe.
I am delighted to offer greetings to the members of the South Asian Bar Association. While you come together to celebrate your hard work, there is no denying the soul of our nation is shaken as we navigate ongoing crises. Black and brown communities have been hit hardest by critical issues facing our nation, such as COVID-19, economic peril, and police brutality. It is up to us to mitigate the harm and overwhelm the system with our voices and our votes. I encourage everyone here to channel their frustration and their vision into voting in November and getting included in the 2020 census. America works best when all our voices are heard and all our votes are counted. So thank you and keep up the great work.
I want to wish SABA a great conference, even if we have to come together in a virtual way. The work that SABA does is more important than ever right now. The work that you do addressing social inequities, social justice, given the turbulent times that we live in as a nation. Your voice is an important voice for the South Asian community. Thank you for everything that you do and for the leadership that you show. Be safe, be well, and be kind to one another.
I wanted to give a big shout out to the South Asian Bar Association today. The work you do in bringing legal professionals together across Canada and North America is so important. I have been fortunate to join you in many of your galas over the years. This year we're celebrating SABA virtually, but nevertheless, thank you so much for all you do, and I look forward to celebrating with you in the future. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment at home and globally. I urge all of you to keep advocating for an inclusive, equitable, and just society. Congratulations to the new executive and to the organizing committee on this year's virtual conference and awards gala.
Congratulations, SABA, on this auspicious occasion and event. When I clerked at the U.S. Supreme Court 3 decades ago, I think I was the first person of South Asian descent to do so. And as I look out at the South Asian legal community today and how it's grown and flourished, I feel a great deal of pride, especially over the work that SABA does on the incredibly important issues of diversity and inclusion. So congratulations again.
Thank you to all our sponsors, speakers, and participants for your words of encouragement and for your support. And now, as president of SABA North America, it is my distinct honor to welcome our incoming executive committee. At President, Rippy Gill. At President-elect, Samir Mehta. At Secretary, Judge George Thomas, the Treasurer, Anant Pradhan, Vice President of Membership, Devin Prasad, Vice President of Public Relations, Dinesh Kumar, Vice President of Affiliate Relations, Nikki Baragava, Vice President of Annual Conference, Madhuri Namali, Vice President of Community Outreach, Mo Sharma, Vice President of Development, Nitin Gambhir, and the Chair of our Young Lawyers Division, Asta Madan. Before Rippy has a chance to speak, I just want to say how fortunate SABA has been to have Rippy's leadership and guidance these past 2 years on the executive committee. I know I have personally relied on Rippy as a co-president while SABA navigates these uncharted waters. And through it all, her clarity, her wisdom, and her energy has enabled SABA not only to survive, but to grow. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce my friend, the 18th president of SABA North America, Rippy Gill.
And before I speak, here's a little surprise from the NAC to show you just how much we appreciate all you have done for SABA this year. Thank you, Anish.
I am Sanjay Kumar.
I'm Paul Graywall.
I'm Neil Chatterjee.
I'm Emily Ninen.
I am Jolsna Thomas.
I am Nadine Bezar.
I am Ann Gwal.
I am Bijal Kumar.
This is Rishi Bagga.
I am Sandeep Sandhu.
And I am Mansi Shah. And we are all members of SABA's National Advisory Council.
And this is a special message for our newest member, Anish Mehta.
While we don't hum the fight song or know the Gator chomp,
we know if Florida football's on, you'll be tuned into the swamp.
Apart from that, however, you have shown up for SABA every day.
And we could have never imagined what would have come your way.
Thank you, Anish.
Thank you, Anish.
Thank you, Anish.
We wanted to say thank you for a term that's nearly done.
And in a few minutes, you'll be on this side of things.
It's not so much work, but lots of fun.
I never could have imagined starting my presidency in the midst of all of us both reeling from a pandemic and feeling so enraged by the scourge of systemic racism. And to be honest, at a time like this, it's easy to feel helpless, or worse, hopeless. But then I think about SABA and how it can be part of the solution. SABA is an engine for positive change in our legal profession, in our community, and in ourselves. We were made to address challenges, even challenges like these. And because of that, I am confident that we are not helpless and we are not hopeless. My faith comes from knowing that SABA is a vehicle for all of us to serve each other and our community on the front lines. What front lines, you might ask? First, the front line of legal advocacy, where we can harness the strengths of all of our members and use the law to aggressively fight discrimination and injustice. And through that work, we will show, not just tell our Black brothers and sisters that we stand with them. Second, we need to be on the front lines of mentoring and use every resource, every network, and every contact to give South Asian lawyers, especially young ones, every advantage in rising to the top of the legal profession. Because more diversity and success in our profession translates into more equality for all. And third, the front line of connectivity, where we will reach out, stay close, and offer support so that none of us ever feels alone when struggling to meet our personal and professional goals. In the coming year, SABA will be here for you in ways big and small. But my hope is that the pain created by the COVID crisis and the searing images of racial injustice we have witnessed will remind us to not only look to SABA, but also to invest in and use SABA as a way to make our highest contribution. That's why, in the coming months, I'm going to call upon all of you, some more often than you would like, to do more, to say more, and stand for more than we have ever had to before. Because now is a time for action. And I am confident that we are going to meet that call. Now, of course, lofty calls to action to be meaningful have to start with small, tangible steps. So I am challenging every member of SABA to take these 3 steps between now and our next conference 1 year from now. First, I challenge every SABA member who can to devote at least 30 hours to pro bono work focused on ending racial injustice or discrimination. Volunteer, provide support, donate. Second, I challenge every SABA member to spend at least 26 hours, just 1 hour every other week, mentoring at least 2 diverse attorneys. And third, to support each other and stay connected locally, I challenge every SABA member to pledge to attend at least 2 local chapter events in the coming year. I know that these are big asks, but I also know that we can do them. And SABA is going to help you and make sure that you have every resource necessary to make them happen. And look, I don't pretend to have all the answers. That's why, more than ever, new and difficult times as we are facing now are going to require new and innovative approaches, fresh ideas, and strong voices. Call us, call me. SABA leadership is listening and ready to act. It is truly my honor and privilege to serve as the next president of SABA North America. We have big things to do and a big role to play.
On behalf of SABA North America, I want to thank you for making us feel so connected tonight. Behind this tight hour of programming were hundreds of hours of tireless effort by those who refuse to even let a pandemic stand in our way. You know, there's a saying that goes, it's important to find time to dance, even if it's in your own living room. Well, it's time to welcome DJ Reka to make that happen. And be sure to log on to your Zoom invites, by the way. Get ready to show off your dance moves and maybe even have some healthy chapter competition. I've been your host, Rajiv Satyal, and I still am. Take it away, DJ Reka. Wait. Okay, you know I have to come back, right? It's an Indian goodbye. You can't just say goodbye in one fell swoop like that, right? Like my wife and I recently were on a Zoom. Like there are all these Zoom invitations now for anniversaries, for birthdays, for whatever. And we were 15 minutes late. And it was time for us just to admit, you know what? Traffic was never the reason that we were late, okay? The jig is up. All that traffic getting to our bedroom to get set up on the computer, okay? It was never having to do with traffic. It has to do everything with the fact that our lives are just in a state of constant disarray, all right? That's just the way it is. So Indians always say goodbye multiple times. I'm not really sure why that is. Even on Zoom calls, it takes like 4 or 5 times. What's going on with that? I mean, the app is literally called Zoom. Zoom, like go, get out of here, okay? Unless you're Anish and you need Microsoft Teams. Anish, apparently people are gonna miss your Microsoft Teams. I don't know what is going on with that, but it's all Zoom from here on out, from Rippy and beyond. I also noticed on these Zoom calls, I'm a bigger narcissist than I ever thought possible because no matter how many people are on screen and how good looking they all are, I'm still looking at myself in the corner the entire time. I'm almost looking at my own picture like I don't know what I look like, but I don't know who else is all zoomed out. I am zoomed out. It's too much Zoom. So now what I feel like doing is maybe like taking a screenshot of my background and uploading that as my virtual background, and then I can go take a nap. Or I can go on to TaskRabbit and hire a doppelganger. Neal Katyal. Where's Neal Katyal when you need him? I mean, can you see it or not? Right? We're both bald. We're Indian. We're in California. Make that happen, Neal. All right, y'all. This time I'm really out. Enjoy DJ Reka. Good night.